So we're going to learn about media queries, and we will continue with this web page that we made during class last week, the video web page, and I will drag it into Firefox if it lets me. Yes, I'll drag it into Firefox so we can see. Here it is. Renamed it Videology, so it's for all of us, and we have our very reasonably sized videos over here in the column, so this is a perfect layout for mobile, but mobile phones are usually a little smaller than 1280 pixels in width. So while 1280 pixels is a great size to look at videos on a desktop, for sure it is not enough, or it's too big for a mobile phone. But this is actually really great, a really great example for us to use on media queries with. So here is our CSS, and let's write some media queries. So we can put our queries, I will put them at the top because they are kind of a complex variable that if I was scrolling through the CSS document, if it wasn't my document and I was trying to figure out what's going on there, I might want to know the things that change first. So we start to write them by writing at media. And I'm really excited that we're learning this finally, because media queries are the thing that are the most like functions in programming that we can get to in the world of markup languages. So this at media is almost like a special kind of rule, a special kind of programming block, and after we write it, we have an open and closed parentheses. And in this open and closed parentheses, we're going to place a condition. So if a certain condition exists, we're going to say, do whatever is in these curly brackets. So this is the basic structure of a media query, and it also happens to be the basic structure of a function call. So when we do JavaScript and learn about functions, you will see the same thing. And if you go on to learn any other programming languages such as Python or Java or C or C++, they will all have this exact same structure. It's like one of the base units of writing code. So it's really great that we can kind of dig into it or get acquainted with this structure here. So this is I don't know that these at media calls are functions in C. I don't know exactly how they like classify in the world of CSS, but it's close to that, so that's really great. Okay, so now I need to look up a little example because I don't remember it off the top of my head. So it's like at media min width. So we're going to look for the minimum width and the maximum width of our screen, or our viewport, if you will. And if the screen happens to be smaller than a certain size, we will make our video scale accordingly. So, okay, so here we have our at media screen example, and as you can see here, it says screen if the screen, and our max width is 600 pixels. Make the div disappear. Boop. And now it's back. Okay. So we're going to take this condition and also the screen rule. Come on. Okay. And in here, we're going to change the width and height of our iframes. So we're going to write Alright, so I have completely, for the moment, given up on scaling these videos that are embedded from YouTube with Media Query because it is just not going to happen. The embedded YouTube situation is just there. So, as an example, because the image tag has its own width and height attribute that it can take, I am going to give that very same image tag its own class, which is going to be video 0, just for the sake of this demonstration. And then in our @media, and then in our CSS, we can set the specific media width and height depending on what size the screen is. In addition to this, I'm going to set a border with different colors just so that we can really see what's happening. So I'm going to say a red border for the 1280 pix or up image, a blue border for the 640 to 1280 image, which is going to be 640 pixels wide and high, and then a yellow border for the smallest image, which is 360 pixels. Okay, so we're going to save that. To the ever important border solid as well, which we must add to every border containing image. So here we go, border solid, fantastic. And now if we reload, we have our large image when our window is large with a red border, our smaller image when the browser is smaller, and our smallest window, our smallest image when the window is smallest. So that is your conditional CSS. Very cool. And let's see what else we can do with it. Now that we have made our images be responsive directly by going into their internal CSS, let's make that be external. So let's go down here in our HTML, which does not change, and we're going to add this line as it says in your homework, image maximum width 100%. So this is telling the image to be 100% of its containing element. Great. So now we can actually keep our @media queries exactly the way they are, but we are going to change our HTML so that it's properly similar to the rest of our HTML structurally in this website. And we can say div, and why don't we just cut and paste this into its correct location. So div class video 0 and div, and save. And if we reload this, we should have the same effect. Yes, excellent. So now we have the same effect, but it's no longer stretching the pixels of the image itself, but just selecting the appropriate proportions. So it's the maximum of the div. So that's great, much better, it's a much better look. Now that we have abstracted our scaling out of the image tag, we may want to, instead of allowing the browser to stretch the tag, to stretch the image and stretch the pixels, we may want to actually substitute a different file according to size. And for that, we're going to use the source set attribute of image, and we can find it here on W3 Schools. Here we go. And so It uses this picture tag. It uses a picture element rather than a image element. Okay, that's fine with me. Let's take it over here to our code, and we can just put it in under the image, since we're going to copy some things over before we delete our image tag, but inside of this Video Zero class. And it has this image source, which is what we have. Okay, let's follow along. And let's see, if the minimum width is 465 pixels, we should have a fairly small image, which I happen to have. It's called Red Ring 480. So I'll just copy and paste that and say Red Ring 480. And then for our larger image, I have this regular, so we could just copy this entire thing from here. And then, since I made this large one, this 1080 red ring, let's take advantage of it. And there it is. We have saved it. We go back to Firefox and reload. We go back to Firefox and reload, and here is our image. Scaling with the ones that I have previously made. We have made our large image, and we can pretend that this image is maybe the image that's the placeholder for like our main video. Maybe this is the video reel of this website. In fact, let's make it be that real quick. I like that idea. Now, since we can do a little typing in preview, we'll just do that. '72, and we'll put it in Cooper, which is very similar to the typeface that is already at the head of the website. This will be great because we can see the differences between the two. Okay, so we can call this video reel. We can even make that bigger. Great. Okay. So we're gonna save that. I'm just gonna copy that and paste it into all of my videos. Into all of my images. So this one can be 100 maybe. Maybe even 96. And then our last one. It disappeared, so let's set that again. Cooper. And this one can be 72. Video reel. Okay, maybe even 64. Excellent. So we'll close that. Let's have a look. Okay, great. So in a future world where we're using JavaScript, this will be our video reel, and then we have all of our other videos going below it, but let's say if the width of the window gets smaller, we might want to make a 2-column layout similar to what we have on YouTube. So we have this flex container situation. So let's add that to our CSS. But instead we're going to add it to the video wall. So instead of display grid, we'll do display flex. We don't need any kind of font size or text alignment, except we want to make it column. And then let's see how they do it here. They have this left and right 2 items. But what we want is actually this. So we're going to take this for when our width is smaller. So we're doing a kind of a tricky different layout. So here we have our larger width. That's great. We want full screen there. And maybe we're also happy with the scaling the way it is at the smallest width, but for the medium width, let's say we want to have a little extra something. So we'll add another class here for the video wall class. And that's where we'll have it display in a row. Okay, so these are very large, our width and heights are very large here, so let's, for the sake of the demonstration, we'll once again take them away. Okay, I suspect the reason that it was unhappy there was because I just had video wall outside of @media for everything else. Let's see. Okay, very promising. The only problem here is that suddenly our classes are stacking one after the other. What I think I have to do is I have to encapsulate these videos. So we're going to say this div is called video row. And then here in the main CSS, I'm just going to say video row. Okay, so now that they're all together, they're making this lovely row at a certain size. So kind of like the YouTube structure. And then when it gets too small, we're once again going to have them going under. So there's a little trouble with the formatting where it's kind of like overlapping, but you can still see they're going under. And here they're next to it, and then when it gets really big, you might be like, oh, the user wants to watch this full screen, so let me just have the next videos coming up go under again.